Hi, and welcome to the SaVeg podcast. I'm Rose, and I'm a content creator going by the handle Cheap Lazy Vegan, and I also own a vegan cafe by the same name as the podcast, which is SaVeg Cafe.
And I'm Daniel, also a vegan, and one of your favorite guest stars on Cheap Lazy Vegan's YouTube channel.
We're two friends currently living in different countries, and we'll be giving our savage take on all things life, veganism, and the latest trending topics.
So basically, whatever comes to our minds, because we love to talk.
You are currently listening to the previous episode of this podcast, but if you would like to listen to this week's episode and get some exclusive content, go over to patreon.com/thesavagepodcast. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the SaVeg podcast.
Hey, guys.
All right, so today we thought we would discuss... Oh, we're gonna be back in a somber mood.
I know. I was just
back in a somber mood.
I was just thinking because our last episode was kind of a more of a fun one on modern romance, whereas this one is definitely. I think again, it's an important thing, and I think we need to continually be talking about these events and stuff to keep them kind of at the forefront, so that these things that have happened don't kind of fade away, and I guess don't make the change that they were not intended to, but like. Do you know what I'm trying to say? I'm struggling with my words today.
Yes. Daniel, every episode you say the same thing. Every episode you're struggling with your words. But it's fine. No, I got what you're saying. You did fantastic, Daniel.
Mm-hmm. Oh, thank you.
I mean, I was hoping that you would do a fantastic job because homegirl is a little hungover today.
Are you?
You know, I'm going through some stuff, Daniel. I'll be drinking two days in a row.
I know. I was like, oh my goodness.
I ain't 18 no more.
That's true. Well, I'm also a little bit hungover though too, Rose.
Daniel's still in quarantine mode, but
am.
What did you drink last night by yourself, Daniel?
Oh, way to make me sound like an alcoholic. But no,
Daniel, you be in quarantine.
True. I was watching some movies last night, and I had a delicious curry, and with my curry, I was finished a bottle of wine, and then I just started my own.
I'm convinced that your entire diet is wine and curry.
I think it might be right now.
Am I?
I've
not even just right now. Don't even use the quarantine as an excuse.
No, I can't. No, I've been eating. I always eat a lot of curry. It's like my favorite food because like.
It is.
You can make them so different tasting, and also with like so many delicious vegetables, and I don't know, they're just super easy to make. So,
Did you make your new favorite curry? Is that what you did, Daniel?
I keep trying, but there's like a spice or something.
It's not as good.
Yeah, and I'm getting really frustrated. So
that's so weird. Anyways, Daniel's trying to make the best curry apparently, which apparently is not tasting the same in Canada.
No, well, it's because my friend showed me this like curry when I was living in Spain, and it was just like so good. And I've tried to recreate it a few times now that I've been back in Calgary. I think I'm just gonna have to go looking for some, I don't know, spices or something.
Well, what are you missing?
Well, we had this like random, like it was like a red pepper spice in the house.
Okay.
And we were using that. Okay. I'm going to see if I can find that again. I think that's what the key like ingredient is that I'm missing.
I see.
Yeah. So it's funny how like one spice can make such a huge difference, but it does, right? So
even the quality of ingredients can make a difference.
Yeah.
I imagine that produce in Spain is quite nice.
It is very nice.
In Canada, it'd be quite shit.
Actually, it hasn't been that bad. Like the stuff that I've been eating at my parents' house, like it's been really nice. Like they bought like a ton of fresh fruit and veg. Aww. So I've been just eating I've been eating quite well actually. So
you have been. They're so sweet. They got you so much food for your little quarantine.
They did, yeah. And they got me today. They went out and they got me a Beyond Burger.
Oh shit! From where?
A&W.
Like from the grocery store? Oh, the A&W.
So good.
Oh, they're so sweet. It's so good. They should just get you the ones where you can make it at home.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. Well, I think
from the grocery store.
When I'm done quarantine, I'm gonna I think some of my friends are like planning some barbecues and stuff. So I'm gonna get my Beyond Burgers. I'm gonna buy a packet of them.
Daniel, I better be the first person you see when you be getting out of the quarantine.
Well, the thing is, Rose, you would be, but you're so damn busy. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to see you.
Oh shit! Wait, what's the day? Like, tell me the day that you're out.
So I think officially,
I mean, I imagine you're gonna be spending the day with your family on that day.
Probably. Yeah. I think it's officially this Sunday, so I think that Sunday I'm gonna spend the day with my parents. And then so then I guess officially I'll count it as Monday then when I actually get to leave the
So Monday evening, shall we meet?
Ooh, not this Monday, by the way. Next Monday.
Yeah, I know. You have a week left now.
Yeah.
You've almost made a week. How do you feel? Are you going crazy?
Well, in the beginning, it's weird because like you think, because like when I was in Spain, pardon me, I did like 9 weeks of this. So you think I would be used to like quarantining, but let me tell you, I think there was like a mixture of emotions, like coming back to Canada, and I don't know. I felt really weird the first couple of days. Like I felt really like blah and like, questioning my like decision to move back.
Entire existence.
So I was a little bit.
But now you feel better?
Mm-hmm. I feel a lot better. Yeah. So I'm feeling.
That's good.
And like yesterday I was like super productive, like got a bunch of stuff done, applied for some jobs, like stuff like that. So I was just like, yeah, if I keep my days busy, it's good,
Yeah.
So
it's fine. We all have our moments of feeling sorry for ourselves.
Exactly.
And then I snap you back into reality.
I mean, if I wasn't in quarantine, Rose would have slapped me back into reality, but no physical contact at the moment, Rose. So
hold on, I'm gonna get a little blanket.
Are you cold?
A little cold. My body's been, just.
Oh God, I hope you're not getting fever and
the COVID.
The COVID.
I don't got the COVID, Daniel.
God damn.
I just got the hangover.
Yeah, that's true. Where did you guys go again?
So yesterday we went to Joey's.
Okay.
And then we were out on the patio. We were there for like 5 hours. And then we went to a brewery. So we went to Cold Garden Brewery. I can never, if there's one word I cannot say, it's brewery. Brewery. Say it.
Brewery.
It's such a weird word.
It is
it not?
Yeah, it's a very strange word.
I cannot get seriously, brewery.
Is it a new?
That sounds weird.
It does sound very odd. Brewery.
I don't think it's a new word because it's no. It's where they make. What do you mean?
No, I meant. Is it a new? Bar or whatever? This place you guys went.
Brewery.
Yeah.
Cold Garden.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's new for you because you haven't been here for a while. It's been out for some time. We should go. It's really cool.
Oh, definitely. Well, I mean, I want to I hope that. When we see each other on Monday, maybe we can go somewhere like a pub or something. Because I just need to get a drink. I mean,
you just got drunk last night.
No, but I don't mean that. I mean, I want to be out.
We should go for a drink. Yeah. Yes. Okay, fine. We'll go for a nice dinner, for some drinks, have a little date night.
Romantic as hell.
Oh God! Well, that'd be the only romance I'd be getting at this moment.
That's true.
So, goddamn.
Okay. Me too. So you and me both. So
is it Pride today?
Well, it's like apparently it's supposed to be. It's like Global Pride Day. So it's like and I guess it's like Pride Month.
Oh, but is it something that they made up so that everyone can celebrate instead of because like usually people would have Pride in their own city, right? Yeah. So is it a new thing for this year or has it always been Global Pride Day on this day?
I'm actually not sure. So this is the first time I've heard of it because normally for example, like in London, they have their Pride Week or like even in Calgary, Calgary had its Pride events and stuff. So I've never heard of like Global Pride Day. I could be wrong, but like this is the first time I'm hearing of it. So
I think it's a new thing that they're doing because obviously people are in lockdown. So, they're not going to do Pride, which sucks.
Yeah. I know they're doing a lot of like virtual prides. So like,
but it's not the same.
I know it isn't.
Pride is just so fun. How do you feel, Daniel? How do you feel? It's Pride. Do you feel proud?
Oh goddamn, Rose.
How you be feeling? Tell me everything.
No, I think I definitely feel like proud. I feel like prouder. Like now, I feel like compared to like 10 years ago when I like kind of first came out and stuff, it's like the world has changed so much. Oh, more than 10 years ago now. God damn.
Goddamn, you be aging yourself.
But yeah, no, I think globally, well, maybe not globally, but at least the places that I've been, it's come a really long way. Like even in Calgary, I feel a lot more comfortable. And so I'm definitely thankful for that. But I think with regards to like, I don't know, the one thing about like Pride and stuff, it's like, I do have some gay friends, but I've never really I feel like I've never really fit in with the gay community. I don't know why, but like, I just have never really like been part of that community, which kind of sucks. It's like sad, but at the same time, I just, for whatever reason, I just never have. So maybe now is my new opportunity to get more involved with kind of like Pride events and things like that in Calgary. So I could see it as an opportunity, but yeah, no, I'm definitely like, I definitely feel proud,
God damn. Yeah. Well, you be having lots of straight female friends. That be your demographic.
That's very true. I literally like, I think 95% of my friends are straight women.
There ain't nothing wrong with that. Okay.
Exactly. We just have a connection, you know? We both lack
it's because you be a 16-year-old girl.
That is my spirit animal. We both like the same thing, you know? So there's lots to talk about.
Exactly. Maybe that's what it is. Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know why that is. It's like just one of those things.
Yeah. That's not a problem.
No.
Anyways.
So today's topic is, now that we've had a moment to catch up and everything, it's a bit of a somber one, as Rose mentioned. So basically, going off the back of, you know, like the George Floyd incident, the 13th documentary, Rose also recommended me to watch another documentary called Time, the Kalief Browder story. So today's episode, we're just kind of going to discuss some of the things that happened. And honestly, for those of you that haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. It's an eye-opening experience, an eye-opening documentary.
It's very eye-opening. Yes, it's a docu-series. I think there 6 episodes.
Yes, there's six episodes in total. And I think, again, it's just like, for those people that are still non-believers of systemic racism and what goes on in the criminal system in the U.S., this is like a very detailed discussion as to specifically what happened to Kalief, but probably what happens to hundreds, if not thousands, of other young Black men. So. Or young ethnic,
not just young,
ethnic minorities, basically.
Yeah, I mean, and of course, it doesn't just happen to Black men.
Yeah.
There are, of course, whoa, it is raining like crazy.
Oh,
anyways, it happens to, you know, I think it happens more so to people that don't have money, essentially, right?
Exactly.
And that happens to be, in America, a lot of that happens to be Black people, unfortunately, like because of all the things that we've discussed and all that stuff. But yeah, this puts kind of like a face to that to all the things that we've been discussing. And I think that's what like hits harder, because it's like his story of what happened to him, but knowing that he's not some kind of outlier. He's like
the norm,
an example.
Yeah. And I think also too, the reason why I think it is so powerful as well is, again, when we see a documentary like the 13th and everything, which is again another really powerful documentary, and all the stuff that's been being talked about systemic racism, it's kind of like almost like I want to say like a bird's eye view. Like, we're hearing about these like big things, right? But you're right. This really brings it to perspective as this is this man's story and exactly how he went through the system and what had happened to him, and his experience is very, very like specific to, not specific to him, but it's like, it gives like an example from start to finish of somebody that's gone through the system, you know?
Yeah. So Daniel just finished watching it. Was it yesterday?
Yeah, it was yesterday. Was it yesterday?
Oh, God.
Yeah, I think it was yesterday.
Can't believe you watched this during quarantining by yourself.
I really shouldn't have.
It was a tough watch.
Especially in the beginning, it wasn't so bad, but it was towards the end after he gets... Oh, by the way, if you haven't seen it, guys, well, there's going to be loads of spoilers. Yeah.
But it's not really like spoilers, but like you'll find out what happens to him. But like I would still recommend watching it because I knew what happened to him before I watched it, but I didn't know all the details of everything and what this poor boy went through. I know.
And there was just the thing that like really also was frustrating is there were so many things that happened in his story that made me like also like question like, why is this happening? Why is this happening in the system? And you're right, like even from the very beginning, it's done in such a way that it does target basically people that don't have money, because if he had money or his family had the money, this wouldn't have happened. So,
oh God, it ties in with so many different problems. So let's just kind of jump into like what happened to him. So basically, Kalief Browder was a 16-year-old Black boy living in the Bronx in New York. And for those of you that don't know, Bronx is a bit of a rough area. It's it's definitely more impoverished. Yeah. Especially for New York. Yeah. But so it's a very impoverished area of New York. And so a lot of minorities live there. Black people, Latinos, stuff like that. And the 16-year-old boy, I can't remember which year this was, but he was walking home from a party and he got stopped by a police car and somebody accusing him of stealing a backpack. And it wasn't even that day.
It was 2 weeks
before
prior.
I watched this. Yeah. So I guess this one guy got his backpack stolen by a black boy. Yeah. And, it was in the dark and, you can't see people in the dark.
Exactly.
Like,
the crazy thing is too, okay, so that's the event that kind of kicked everything off was these two, I think they were Mexican, these two Mexican guys, they were brothers and they were working in the US. And basically, again, they said his brother was attacked by two black men. And the crazy thing is where the guy was attacked. Yes, it was in the evening in the dark, but it was in this kind of like alleyway that was kind of lit up a little bit. And there was a camera in the alleyway.
Right. And they never checked.
No, and they never pulled the footage ever.
Oh my God. Right. That's insanity. So they could have actually checked and confirmed. Exactly.
There's so many things that could have happened. Even we're talking about like the step one of this guy basically, in the cop car, saying to the police, hey, those are the two guys that stole my brother's backpack and stuff, just because there were two black guys hanging out together.
It was the one guy. I think he blamed the one guy though. It was the one guy.
No, they both.
So he blamed Kalief.
No, they both got.
Well, what happened to the other guy then?
The thing is, they never really clarify what happened to the other guy.
Are you sure they both got arrested?
I'm like 99.999% sure.
What?
Yeah, which is like crazy. Let me just double check, but like. Yeah, two black guys. They took my brother's book bag.
Oh.
I did not rob anyone. The police searched Browder. They did not find the backpack.
Okay. So I guess they arrested. Maybe that guy had bail money.
Yeah. And not only that, it wasn't just because another thing that happened with Browder is so his family didn't have the money. But then what happened was about a week later, his mom had borrowed the money from a neighbor or something.
From like a loan. No, it was like wasn't it like a... okay, whatever. She borrowed money. Sure.
She borrowed money basicly, and she went to go to the bail bondsman to pay for the bail. And this was about a week after the bail had been set. And so she went to the bail bondsman with the money, and the bail bondsman was going to sort everything out. But apparently, because Browder had a prior charge. A history, exactly. And the prior charge, what they talked about as well, was joyriding in a bakery truck or something.
Stolen,
something like this. And
something he did when he was like, I don't know, young and stupid, like 15, 14 years old.
Exactly. Right? And again, even the magnitude of him, if he had stolen the backpack, I mean, none of what happened to him should have happened for a freaking stolen backpack anyway.
It's a backpack.
Exactly. And so his mom went to go pay, and the bail was denied because of this prior charge. And they said, sorry, you can't pay this bail.
Because I think the bail became, they increased the bail because of this prior thing as well. I think that's what happened.
Yeah, I think so.
Something along those lines.
Yeah.
So initially, I think the bail, sorry guys, if we're getting any of the facts wrong, but like, I think initially the bail was like $3,000 or something. Yeah. And then later, because of this other thing, it was raised or something like that.
But then just this exact thing, this exact concept of bail,
it's so fucked up.
It's so messed up because if you think about it, they're saying, okay, we're setting this person's bail. So they haven't been technically guilty yet because they haven't had the trial, right? So so they're not really guilty. They just they're holding this person until the trial. However, if that person happens to be rich enough to pay the bail, or their family is, or whoever else, they can pay the bail, instantly get out and await trial, but live their normal life until the trial comes up.
Exactly. So, and they could be guilty of horrendous crimes, not like, stealing a backpack. It could be like, they could be guilty, or they could be not guilty, but they could be accused of like rape or murder, or maybe not murder. What do they do with murderers?
No,
I don't know.
I think for some more severe crimes, then it's not as...
But like bribery, or like, all of those kind of, white collar people, they always get out because they have money to pay bail.
Exactly.
And then kids that get, not even just kids, but young people or people in general that get arrested and potentially accused of even petty crimes can't leave because of this bail system, because they don't have money.
Exactly. I don't understand what the purpose of the bail system is, because like the thing is, because often bail is denied for people that are considered like flight risks and things like this. But you would think if people had more money and they committed a serious crime, they're the more likely ones to flee the country and disappear. You know what I mean? Like they're the ones that have the money and resources to do that kind of stuff. So I haven't done enough research, but I don't understand why the bail system is in place. Like why is it that somebody can pay a certain fee to get out and await trial versus having to be imprisoned and incarcerated and await trial? Why does that exist? So that right away is discrimination against people that don't have money, like ultimately.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
Yeah. So then, oh God.
So apparently I read a statistic, and I think they did mention it in the docuseries as well, is that 70% of people sitting in prisons right now are awaiting their trial.
Yeah.
70%. So more than half, a lot more than half of people haven't even been tried. So
that's what's crazy.
So literally the whole concept of innocent until proven guilty is just something that we say, but it's not something that we actually have in practice.
Because why are all of these people that could be innocent, a lot of them probably innocent, why are they sitting in prisons right now? And that also is a strain on the government and the economy, because it's expensive to keep those people in prison. You know, they're having to pay, all of this extra cost. But like, why, if they're considered innocent before a trial, that you shouldn't be held, you shouldn't be in custody until following the trial, you know?
Yeah. I wonder how it is in Canada.
I don't know.
Like, what is the system in Canada?
I don't know enough.
I feel like I want to know a little bit more about it. Yeah. But
maybe that could be like we'll do like a research and comparison.
It's so messed up.
Yeah.
Okay. So So basically, he couldn't afford bail.
Yeah.
His family couldn't afford bail.
Yeah.
And he ended up, I still can't believe this, he ended up staying in, so he was brought to Rikers,
Rikers
prison,
Island.
Rikers Island, which is apparently a prison that is usually houses very violent criminals.
Yeah.
And is known to be very, not a very good place.
No, it's like renowned.
I think some people called it like the Guantanamo of like the U.S. or something like that. Why are they even sending him there? Is my question.
It literally makes no sense. Like there's so many things like along the way. So that's another one along this journey that Kalief went through. And why? Okay, so now you have this guy. His family can't afford bail. Now we're sending him to a renowned prison for serious violence. Where not only that, but you're having corruption of officers and all of this kind of stuff. And it's renowned for this. This prison was known for that. So why are you sending somebody that hasn't committed a serious crime to this really intense prison? Again,
it makes no sense.
No, it's crazy.
I think they just throw people there.
Yeah.
Like they just don't care. That's my kind of theory. They just don't care. It's in an island. It's not in their vicinity.
Out of sight, out of mind.
So they're just exactly. Let's just throw these troublesome black kids there so that I don't have to think about it. And that's why he was there for 3 years, because nobody really gave a shit that he was there.
Exactly. Well, and then another thing that really again makes me question, why does this go on in the U.S. judicial system? And again, it might happen in Canada. I'm not 100% sure. I don't know enough about the Canadian system. But okay, so you've moved him now to Rikers, which we'll talk about in more detail in a minute. But then also, so he was there for 3 years. And as part of this, he had several meetings or trials, kind of not trials, but so many meetings with judges. And what I don't understand is there was one judge that was in the documentary, for example, where they were saying, do you take any responsibility for this? He was in your courtroom 6 times over his 3 years. He went to your courtroom 6 times, but the prosecution was never ready. They kept pushing back the trial, all of this stuff. And it's why was nothing done? Do you know what I mean? Why was this?
I didn't really understand that part.
Yeah.
I'm why is it? They were constantly, so basically they would tell him, oh, your trial date is this. And then they would go to the trial. Yeah. And then the judge would just say, oh, we need more time.
Well, it wouldn't be the judge. I don't think it was the judge that said it. Would be the prosecution. So the prosecution would keep saying, oh, we weren't able to, we need more time to get the witness. We're still talking to the witness and whatever else.
God.
And it just kept kind of going. But you think after about 6 times of seeing the same person in your courtroom of over a freaking stolen backpack, which is already in itself
so ridiculous.
It's so ridiculous. And you would think as a judge, though, the 8th or the 6th time of seeing this person and the prosecution continually saying that we don't have the information, or we can't get the witness, we're still talking to them, we need to push back trial, eventually the judge would just be like, this case needs to be dismissed, which is ultimately what happened with the final judge.
So they probably could have fucking done that 100%,
because what happened was...
Oh my God.
And we are jumping around a little bit. We'll go through like the stuff at Riker.
Sorry guys if it's sounding like a mess, but...
Yeah. But
the
main, I'm just going to look up her name. There was like the last judge who's like renowned for being
the one that keeps making everyone take a plea deal or something.
So
she looked despicable.
Yeah. But she's the one. So DeMango, Judge DeMango, who's really like known for really pushing people to take pleas. And over this period of the 3 years, Kalief was offered like several different plea deals. One for 3.5 years, another for 2.5, and they would take into consideration his time that he'd already spent in Rikers, which again, all of this is so fucked up.
So he could have been released. So the thing is, so that's another fucked up thing. So we talked about how fucked up bail is, right?
Yeah.
And then another even more fucked up thing is that now... So if you are accused of a crime, you would think, at least like I used to think, that, most things go to trial because, you want to weigh out, the evidence and see if the person is actually guilty or not. Yeah. But what happens is over 90% of people that are accused of a crime end up taking a plea deal. So over 90%.
I know, it's crazy.
So that means only like 10% of people actually go to the actual trial of, showing people's evidence. So what happens is that these people that take a plea deal, we don't actually know if they're guilty or not guilty, but they are offered something that they feel like they can't refuse, which is why most people take that.
Well, towards the end, one of the final plea deals that DeMango was offering to Kalief was basically if he took the plea and pled guilty, he could have left there and then. That day.
Yeah.
And he would have had he would still had a criminal record and whatever else, but like she said that he could have left that day, and he still denied it because he's like, I'm not going to, say that I'm guilty of something that I did not commit. And I think then the last time DeMango saw him again, and again the prosecution was needing to push it back and everything, and she said, look, you guys, we have to dismiss these charges. So she's the one that eventually was dismissed.
Is she the one?
Yeah, she's the one that she freed him, basically.
I feel like at that point, they literally just knew that they couldn't do anything.
Exactly.
Because I think at that point, prosecution had nothing. It was very obvious that prosecution didn't have anything on him. And basically the Mexican guy that accused him was already out of the country for years, I think.
And again, I think we think about this case, and it's like, literally, all of this happened over a freaking backpack. That's what blows my mind. That's what really...
That he didn't even steal, but even then, even if it was him.
Even if he had stolen this backpack, he did not deserve this crazy punishment. Because you think about it,
this deserves a slap on the wrist, if anything.
Or maybe a small fine or community service. Do you know what I mean?
This is how you create... This is the problem with this fucking system. This is how you create worse criminals. Yeah. Okay? People always talk about, oh my God, there's so much crime in these Black communities. Why is there so much crime? First of all, there's so many different reasons as to why. Of course, there's the poverty reason, which is probably the biggest reason. Yeah. When you have a situation where people don't have money, they're going to commit crimes. This has been proven time and time again. It doesn't take a genius to figure that out.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you have situations where police specifically target these poor people. And then, of course, they can't pay bail. They can't leave. And then they take a plea deal, become a criminal, potentially. Yeah. They've spent time in potentially a very violent environment, which is a prison. Yeah. What are they going to learn in prison?
Exactly. And this is the thing too. It's especially at that age when you're 16, 17, and if you're because your brain is still technically developing, you know what I mean? You're still you're still growing, you're still learning. And you're right. If you're put into a very, very violent and aggressive situation, and we haven't even started talking about the solitary confinement, because that comes in a little bit.
Oh God!
But just the general situation. Even if I think about myself, I put myself into his position to think about what I would do. Number one, I don't know if I would have been as strong as him to not take a plea deal, because
he was the strongest.
It's crazy.
I was shocked.
I was shocked as well, because especially towards the end when they were like, look, if you take this plea deal, you can basically leave today. And he was like, no, I'm not, out of principle, I'm not going to take this. But I also think about how, he was constantly beat up, and this is not an isolated incident. This happens to a lot of people in prison.
Oh, 100%.
Where not only was the inmates, the other inmates that were really, really aggressive with him, but also the what are they called? COs or whatever, the like corporate, or not corporate, the
correctional officers.
That's what it is. Correctional officers. Yeah. They were also really, really aggressive with him.
So fucked up.
Yeah. And so I think there was like a combination of those things, and that's not even talking about the solitary confinement. It changes somebody when they leave. So now you're saying, okay, they took the plea deal. If he had taken it, he's branded as a criminal and, you know, has this, you know, experience of 2-3 years in a intense experience. I think anybody would change in that. You know, you might actually become a criminal because of that.
100%. If you don't change from that, you might not be human.
Yeah.
Like there's no way you can experience that, especially as a child.
Yeah.
And then go in. So basically he was also sent to a solitary confinement so in the 3 years that he was in prison, he was in solitary confinement for about 2 years.
2 of those years.
Yeah, because he would, you know, again, they would get into fights and he would get beat up a lot. So to like protect him, they put him into solitary confinement, which has been proven time and time again as torture. It is literal torture.
Well, there was a stat that they said, and again, I'm not going to quote it exactly because I don't remember. It was like something about the UN or something like this. They said any solitary confinement for more than 14 days is considered torture. So any form of like solitary confinement past the 14 days. And also they even talked about it in this documentary, this docuseries, about how, and you have to think about this, like any rational person, even think about us in quarantine when we had to do the quarantine, which is a very mild example of what someone goes through in solitary, because we still have our computers and we can talk to our friends and everything else. Imagine being trapped in your room with nothing
to do.
Nothing to do. You have no books. You have no computers. You have nothing.
Oh God, I can't even imagine.
And they say that most people after about, I think it's after 14, it's like around that 14-day mark that people actually start to go crazy.
Go crazy.
And the longer you're in this kind of like this kind of confined,
disconnected.
Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. Disconnected from society and everything else. You develop. Anybody in these circumstances would develop some kind of mental issues. And then, so they put them in solitary confinement, and then they would release him back to the general prison population. And of course, at this point, he has a lot of, you know, demons going on in his head because of being trapped in solitary confinement. So he'll get in more fights and he'll get in more stuff, thrown back into solitary confinement. So it was like this vicious cycle. And you're right, of the 3 years, I think it was about two of those years were spent in solitary confinement. And
oh my God, seriously.
Like, it's crazy to think about. Like what?
Yeah.
And then
this makes me so mad. In what circumstance do you think this is appropriate to put someone into solitary confinement? In what circumstance do you think, what are you trying to achieve from locking someone into solitary confinement? Because you're going to release that person back into society without any psychological help, without any counseling, without actually trying to see, you know, without trying to fix the damage that solitary confinement did. You're just going to release them back into society. And then are you going to be surprised that you have repeat offenders, people that are doing like shit over and over again, and people that get in trouble, people that, you know, can't integrate into society after you fuck them over by putting them into solitary confinement?
This is it. I mean, the crazy thing is too, is while he was in prison, because it was also mentioned that he tried to take his life several times.
Several times.
Yeah. So he tried to hang himself. He tried to cut his wrists one time. There was just multiple suicide attempts made.
Yeah.
And he also made requests to see a psychiatrist while he was in prison. This is what's crazy. So he made a request. I think it was before his first suicide attempt. He basically said, I really need to talk to somebody. I'm not all right. Like I'm mentally like, I'm fucked here. Like I really need to speak to somebody. And then they were just like, you know, denied him, didn't do anything.
They ignored him.
Yeah. And
then another time when he tried to commit suicide, they beat him up.
Yeah. So then he tries to commit suicide. They beat the shit out of him, the COs, the correctional officers. And then again, he asked for, I think, psychiatrist or, you know, to see a doctor and for like, you know, someone to talk to and stuff. And again, it was denied. So the entire time, and again, they're continually throwing him into solitary, and they're not doing any kind of rehabilitation work or any kind of like work like to help him recover from the damages that is going on in the prison.
Yeah.
Like,
but let's just face it though, a prison that has and uses solitary confinement, of course they're not going to give a shit about their mental health.
This is so true.
Of course they're not going to give them a psychiatrist or counselor, because the fact that you're putting them into solitary confinement in the first place means that you don't give a fuck about these humans, and you just want to treat them like worse than that you would treat your worst enemy.
Exactly.
Why?
And
it's like, how do you not have any decency?
I know. And all of this for allegedly, and not even didn't steal this backpack. But again, I think to myself, even if he had, which he didn't, but even if he had, why is he being solitarily confined for 2 years in these crazy circumstances? Like this should not happen. This docuseries really, really emphasized and highlighted the problems with this system every single step of the way.
Every step of the way. The fact that he got arrested wrongfully in the first place with no evidence, just because he was black and the Mexican guy thought, oh, this black kid must have stolen it. Like, what the fuck? No evidence whatsoever. He wasn't even caught on the spot.
I know.
It wasn't even like, oh, you had a backpack on you and like that. Maybe that's his backpack.
They didn't search. And then also the officers apparently didn't search his home to see if any of this stuff was there. They didn't look at the video footage of the camera that was literally, and even the Mexican guy. I think he was saying that there was a video camera or something, but nothing got watched. So you have the issue of him getting arrested, the issue of them not doing a proper investigation or looking into anything. The issue of bail. Then you have the issue of throwing them away to Rikers, this crazy facility that, shouldn't really, if people are having these misdemeanors and stuff, why are you sending them to this kind of crazy facility? Then you have, the fact that there's like the corrupt, officers there that are, beating him up as well, the solitary confinement, the denial of being able to see anyone for any kind of psychological help. Then you have I'm like getting so passionate, but it's like so, then you have the fact that
it's so
during those 3 years, he has multiple meetings with several different judges, all of which is like the hearing is
delayed, the trial.
delayed for 3 freaking years until they finally say, actually, you know what? We're going to dismiss the case. And at that point,
without any, no, the thing is, and then they kept offering him plea deal after plea deal, and he didn't take it. And finally, when they probably realized that he's not going to take a plea deal,
that's when they said,
they're like, well, I guess we have nothing on you then.
Exactly. So this is what. And then on top of that, though, too, Rose, is like, think about also, so you've had this guy that's been, solitarily confined for 2 years, which would drive anybody crazy.
Absolutely.
You're releasing them to society and you're not offering any kind of like counseling or support or any kind of after prison care. They're just saying, apparently he had to like go and take a bus home or something. And like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, they gave him a Metro pass.
Yeah, they like said,
what the fuck?
Here's a Metro pass. See you later.
Sorry for keeping you, not even a sorry for keeping you here for 3 years.
Yeah.
Like, this is like,
it's crazy.
Imagine.
Yeah. But
I'm surprised. You know what? He must be a fucking angel because I'm surprised he didn't just get a gun and shoot everybody.
No, I know. Like, it's crazy.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, it could have went the other way.
100%.
Imagine how angry would you be, right? And like one point that they made was that a lot of people that get wrongfully accused, like, so the innocent people, they're the ones that actually end up causing some trouble in prison because they are so upset that they're in prison in the first place, right? So they were like angry. And imagine 16 years old, you're already a bit angry. You're already a bit, you're 16. So your hormones are raging or whatever. And then you get wrongfully convicted of this or wrongfully accused. You're sitting in prison for something you didn't do. So like how pissed off would you be?
Exactly.
And then they throw you into solitary and then release you. And all they give you is a fucking Metro pass.
Here's your Metro pass. There you go. See you later. It's so crazy. But and then the really sad part though is, well, I mean, if this all isn't so crazy and like sad already, is what happens after as well. So it's like,
oh my God,
continue. It's like you constantly have. So we've had this really, and the question I have is like, I know that they announced, I think it was at the end of the documentary, or I might have read it somewhere afterwards, but they are announced that they will be closing that prison. So
yes,
but my question would be, is that really solving the problem? Do you know what I mean?
It's not.
Because it's not necessarily the prison itself, but it's the processes that are in place. So those are the things that need to be looked at. Why is this bill?
Yeah, it's like, why is closing? That's the thing. I was wondering that. I'm like, why is closing the prison going to fix this whole situation?
Exactly.
It's like, how about you train your correctional officers properly and make sure that they know how to handle, people, instead of beating them up. Like, they are just as bad as the prisoners, if not worse, because they're the ones that are supposed to be, maintaining order in this place, and there's absolutely no order.
Exactly.
And there's so much corruption even within that prison itself.
Yeah.
they were showing how there's like gangs within the prison, and then the gangs are like buddy with the correctional officers. So if you're outside of that gang, then even the correctional officers are just gonna let them just beat up this kid.
Of course. Well, and
just like turn a blind eye.
Well, and because a lot of the correctional officers as well is they make money from there's that huge thing. Remember they were talking about like smokes, for example. One officer was saying, I could buy a pack of smokes for $10 or whatever, and I can sell it in there for like 1,000 or something crazy like this. Ridiculous. Where he's like it's easy money, so of course he does it. But yeah, I don't know. It's just like that is like, I feel like closing the prison is a scapegoat. It's kind of like, hey, they've had a lot of intense scrutiny around this case.
Yeah.
And it's been a global, I mean, when it happened, it was like, global news. It was like, there was a lot of stuff going on. And it was good that like Kalief was getting out there and trying to tell his story and stuff. I think that was really, really powerful. But at the same time, like closing the prison isn't addressing the root of the problem. It's kind of like, it's almost like trying to distract people's attention from what's actually going on. Because it's like, well, it's not the facility itself. It's what was going on inside the facility. It's the steps that led Kalief to being in that facility in the first place. And also even the process within the judicial system is when you're going to these like trials and they keep getting pushed back and pushed back. How long can that go on for? There should be, you know what I mean? Like, why? Because
didn't they say that there was something that requires you to have like a short.
Yes. One of the, how we're saying innocent until proven guilty. That's one of the like kind of 10 commandments or whatever it is.
Requirements.
Another one though is that you're entitled as a United States citizen. You have a right to a speedy trial.
What does that mean though? Because this guy waited 3 years.
Exactly. Well, clearly that is
not a speedy trial at all.
Exactly. So that's another issue again. And again, closing this prison is not doing anything to this problem. So it's like you need to address what is actually fundamentally going on. And then, oh my God, if this isn't as bad enough, when this story gets out and stuff, I think, I don't know I can't remember if it was Kalief's idea or if he was approached by a lawyer or something happened. Maybe it was his idea, but basically he wanted justice for what had happened to him. So they decided to sue the state of New York, I believe, for basically all of this stuff that's happened. And then he goes through this like really intense deposition. Do you remember this part?
Which part?
So basically because he was because he was pressing charges against the state.
That part made me so mad too.
And then literally basically what they did is they sat him in a room with the state prosecutors, and then they were like, they have to do this thing called like I don't know, understand a deposition. Yeah, a deposition where you basically by oath have to like explain your situation and they can question you. And they were like asking him like some really, really intense questions of stuff that was just like super irrelevant. And again, the state kept pushing that trial back and back and back and kept doing that. And it kind of like, emphasized these, because when Kalief got out, he was talking about how obviously he has a lot of mental issues that he was trying to deal with. But he was saying like sometimes he'd catch himself on the train, like talking to himself and like all of this stuff, which is a result of the, what's happened to him.
Solitary confinement probably as well.
But then he also developed this kind of paranoia. And I guess when you're in these constant circumstances where, the government and the things that are like I don't know what to call it, but basically the facility, like the government and everything is
the things that are supposed to protect you.
Yeah, you're constantly coming up against them, and they're not protecting you at all. So that's gonna just.
So he was trying to sue. So he and the lawyer were trying to sue the state or the city or whatever it was. So, but then in order to do that, you have to go through that whole deposition process, which seems very, very long and tedious. And they go through like your entire life, ask you all kinds of questions, and basically make you seem like you're not credible from the beginning. So it's like they're already like, your enemy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, after being treated like that already, then going through that process, and then of course he has all the mental issues from being in prison and being in solitary confinement, and then also he, because he was getting some press from this whole incident, he was like on some news networks and stuff like that, and his face was getting out there, and because of that, he started becoming also a target for some violence.
Exactly.
Because he lives in a bit of a rougher neighborhood.
Yeah, basically he said it happened quite a few times where people would jump him and they would say, give us money and stuff, because they just figured.
Because they thought he had money now because he was on the TV.
Exactly. Because I think a lot of people that obviously live in that area, they probably think or assume, this guy's on TV doing talk shows. Mm-hmm. He's probably making, mad money from this. Yeah. So, it's crazy. And then there was a really sad excerpt as well because how he was trying. The thing is he's such a, someone that's really, really admirable because of like how strong he was as a character and a person, because a lot of the stuff, like not taking any plea deals and maintaining that whole time, like you said, like 90% of these cases people will do plea deals, because I and me myself, if I was in that circumstance, I don't know if I wouldn't have taken a plea deal, because
I think I would 100% taken a plea deal,
because I don't know if I would have been as
that's why 90% of people do.
Exactly. So it's
insanity.
It's crazy. And then so people are like admitting to, or like saying that they did crimes that they didn't. And then he was going to like community college to like get an education and everything. Yes. And he was doing really, really well. And then there was this program that this guy created for young. That
broke my heart so much.
I know. It was so.
Okay, tell the story.
Yeah. So basically this other guy who had been he had been in prison. This guy, like years ago, he started a program specifically for young offenders that had been to prison and potentially had like solitary confinement and things that do mess with you mentally. He created this like outdoor program where he would take a group of these guys and girls, out to like do a camping trip or out in the woods or like hike the Grand Canyon or do these kind of like get away from a society and everything and just get out into the wilderness. Mm-hmm. And he said for him, that was like super, super helpful. It was a space where he could like create a new experience for himself, as well as clear his headspace from everything that had happened. Mm-hmm. And actually Kalief was on the waiting list, or not waiting list. They were going to take him.
He applied for it and they were going to take him. Yeah. But then unfortunately at that time, they weren't doing the trip until
like 6 or 8 months.
Maybe like 6 months later. Yeah. So then at that time, he was disappointed because he was obviously fighting the demons at that moment. So he wanted to leave at that moment.
Yeah.
But then he couldn't because the trip wasn't until later. And then didn't his lawyer try to like basically get him to not go because of the whole suing?
Yeah, this was another thing too. His lawyer said we have to wait until this trial is done, because you need to be around and we need to keep going with this.
And like, I don't blame the lawyer. I'm sure the lawyer didn't mean to,
No, the lawyer seemed like such a nice guy, to be honest.
He was such a nice guy, and he didn't. I'm sure that he like maybe had second thoughts later on after what happened. Yeah. But that was such a heartbreaking thing, because I was like, oh my God, like if he had gone on that trip, like if the time it probably would have done him wonders. You know what I mean? Like exactly, because he was always just in the in that same neighborhood, went back to that same place where he got arrested. Yeah. So like he had no escape at that time,
and it was crazy.
So this could have been his escape.
Exactly, and it was crazy because like even his family members were saying like the stuff that he was doing, like he would be having a conversation and all of a sudden he'd start getting paranoid of them as well and be like, and his moods and everything. It was like literally this time. It messed up his life. You know what I mean? It just
100%.
Mentally it literally took his life away from him. So
so he ended up, I guess we didn't mention it, but he, after I think 2 years of leaving prison, he was in school for a bit. He was trying to turn his life around, but he obviously had so many mental issues that he couldn't deal with.
Exactly.
And eventually he ended up
killing himself,
taking his own life.
Yeah. And he was only 22. So literally this thing happened. So he was 16. So he was in prison for 3 years, 16, 17, 18. And then he was out for a few more, 3 or 4 years after, and then killed himself. So.
Well, they basically, they killed him, honestly. Like, this is like not even a suicide.
I know.
Like, this is a full on, not a suicide, because he wouldn't have done it otherwise.
Exactly. It was also really, really sad too. Like, do you know the part where like they were, he was like going to trial with the city, and all of a sudden his like estranged father appeared in the picture.
Oh, the father pisses me off so much.
Oh my God. It made me so
That man. Oh,
I know. Whoa, Rose.
He is like the most despicable man.
He's like, but this just shows you how disgusting people can be, because like literally,
tell the story, Daniel.
He hadn't been in Kalief's life ever. at all.
Ever,
and now all of a
basically.
sudden, and even during prison, and the whole time that Kalief was in prison, his mom was visiting. His mom's like really, really sick as well. She had like a
Oh my
malfunctioning
God.
heart.
His mom passed away too. Did you know that?
Yeah. No, it happened during the documentary.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The documentary mentioned it.
But basically his mom had like this heart condition where her heart only pumped at like, at one point it was 50% capacity, but as the documentary went on, it went less and less. But she would like get on a bus and go and see him once a week, even though it was like really hard for her. Right. And she was there through the whole thing. And yet his father was like never around, was like, his father had a bit of money as well. He wasn't like so, poor. So like, and he could have paid for his bail. He didn't pay for the bail, nothing. And then the second he gets a little whiff that, you know, his son is now going to sue the city, probably going to be getting a landslide, you know, amount if the trial goes according to plan and everything.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden he appears out of the woodwork and said, you know,
With the
I'm
lawyer.
here to fight for my son's, you know, behalf.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think I'm entitled to half of the proceeds.
Fucking.
It was just,
Did he get any money?
the thing is,
Like-
this is what's really, really sad. Okay. So I just did a quick, thing before we had this call as well, because the way the documentary ended was, so Kalief had killed himself, and then his mother, she did, at first his mother got really, really upset, and she had another heart attack or something crazy happened. And then it was like her wake up call where she was like, actually, I really need to continue speaking out about this, about what happened to my son. And also I'm going to continue with the city to do this trial because, you know, we need to get some kind of compensation. Like, this is not fair. There has to be justice, you know? So she started that whole, like, I think Justice for Kalief movement, and she continued with the lawyer to go to the city and everything else. And what had happened was, during this time, her health was continually on the decline. And again, the city kept pushing back the trial and delaying and delaying and delaying. And eventually she ended up passing away as well. So I don't know. And that's kind of how it ended in the documentary. So you don't really know what happened with regards to the trial. But then when I read on here, hang on 2 seconds.
I think I heard that the family got something.
Yeah. So it was in January. So keep in mind, Kalief was originally incarcerated and arrested in 2010. So,
oh my God.
And in January 2019, the New York City settled the civil lawsuit with the Browder family for $3.3 million.
Ugh.
So, and I don't know if the thing that's like really disgusting is, like, I don't know if his father got any of that. I really hope that he didn't, because his father, like, you know what I mean? He wasn't around. Like,
that father was, I could not believe him.
Oh my God.
I
was shocked when he came up in the documentary, and I was just like,
I know.
I was like, is this for real?
I was so angry. Yeah.
I was like, can they not? And it was after Kalief had killed himself, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's right. So after he killed himself, then
after Kalief killed himself.
Yeah, then his father, and I don't think his father didn't go to the funeral, did he? I don't think his father gave a shit about Kalief ever. Oh my God, seriously. I was just so, I think now his brother, Akeem, I think he's kind of running the foundation. They have like a nonprofit called Kalief Browder Foundation or something. So he's running that, because I saw an interview by him. He was also, remember in the documentary, he was accused of like being a sex offender. Yes. He said that basically what had happened was, he was charged of like kidnapping and sexually assaulting a girl. And what had happened was, I think that they were friends or they knew each other, and they
were just like doing something like, they're doing what teenagers do.
Exactly. They skipped school together and they fooled around, and that's, you know, what most teenagers do.
And then I can't remember
days.
what happened. Yeah. But basically he got accused of being the Bronx, like, predator or something. I don't know. He got accused of something crazy. And this was before Kalief, when Kalief was younger.
Exactly.
So then he got thrown into, I think, Rikers as well for a little bit. And then I don't know exactly what happened, but basically
he took a plea deal.
I think, he took a plea deal. Yes.
That's right. Yeah.
So he took a plea deal, and then he's now a convicted felon, essentially.
And probably he'll be a registered sex offender as well.
Absolutely. And now he probably had a hard time finding a job, and he can't vote, all of that stuff. So Kalief saw that. So that's probably another reason why he was so strong in not taking a plea deal as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. But also, like, it breaks my heart so much, because I also feel like, I'm like, damn it. Like, as much as I hate to say this, like, if he took a plea deal, like, maybe he would still be alive, and, like.
Yeah.
It's just so sad.
But this is the thing. It's like, why is it that the judicial system is forcing you, basically the option is you take a plea deal or you stay in prison. Like,
because they want to make you a criminal.
It's crazy.
I think this is how it started.
Yeah. It just like blows my mind.
Right?
I don't know. It's just like,
because remember what we said about the whole mass incarceration thing and how, it, at least initially, which was not that long ago, when the whole mass incarceration thing started, it was a specific ploy to get Black people imprisoned. Because again, and one reason and one thing for that would be because Black people are generally Democratic voting. So they will vote for the Democratic Party and not the Republican Party. So the more Black people are thrown into prison, the less likely they're not going to vote for the Republican Party.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? They can't vote anymore. That's what I mean.
Also, and also if you're forcing them to plead guilty to these charges they didn't commit, then even after they get out, they still will never be able to vote.
Exactly. So that was, I think that was one of the reasons, and also not just with voting, but they lose a lot of power as well, just politically and economically. Yeah. So it was used, and I think those, I don't know if it's now still used deliberately in that sense, but those kind of racist policies are still, it's still making the same impact as today.
What was there was one specific in the New York in the New York area as well. I don't know if it was just specific to New York, but they talked about this thing called the Frisk and check or something, which the police
stop and frisk.
Stop and frisk. That's what it was.
It's the most fucked up thing.
I know. And then there was actually like a clip. I'm pretty sure it was in the documentary of like Donald Trump talking about how it was such a great policy. They need to because I don't know if they can still do it or if it's like
they still do it. So I read up on this when they first started doing it, which I can't remember what year it was. Yeah. But this is when they were like really cracking down on crime. Yeah. And when they first started doing it, they were doing it in massive numbers. So I remember one of the years I checked was 2010. And I think it's been around for a bit at that point as well. But in 2010, the recorded number of stop and frisks in New York in 1 year was over 600,000. And out of that number, so the crazy thing is out of that number, about only 10, what was it? I think it was 10% of them were white and then 90% were Black or Latino. And out of that also, like 85% were innocent.
Yeah. It's crazy.
So it's like those, and that happened a lot. So like stop and frisk was a very big thing for a long time. Yeah. And then now I did look at the numbers and there were still numbers from 2019, but I think it was a lot lower. Yeah. So like they don't do it as much.
It's not such a big like push to do it.
Yeah, but they still do it. Yeah, they still do it, but they don't do it as much.
Well, the whole concept of stop and frisk doesn't make sense because it's like
it's
literally
just racial profiling.
Exactly,
or it's profiling in general.
Exactly, because it's literally you can look at somebody and stop them, but like really like and frisk them.
What kind of person would you stop? Exactly. Would you stop the banker wearing the suit or the guy wearing the gangster shirt?
Exactly.
It's just profiling 101. Like, this is just so stupid.
Yeah. And even though that banker that you mentioned, he might have, a few grams of like coke with him or something, or, other 100%. Stuff that would get him arrested, but you're never going to stop him.
Yeah.
Like
100%. And I think also like Kalief had also been stopped a few times.
Yeah, he said it
because of stop and frisk.
Yeah. Well, he said, I think one of the teachers or somebody was in the documentary and they were saying, it was like kind of an ongoing joke, but in the class, like they'd be like, oh, so like if kids were late and stuff, oh, sorry, I was just stop and frisked or whatever. She'd be like, how many people?
It was like a thing.
Yeah. And it was like all the people in the classroom would be like, oh yeah, who's been stopped today? Like half the class would put up their hand. It's like crazy.
It's insane. It's insane.
And like automatically, even if you haven't done anything wrong, if police are constantly stopping you and checking you, it starts to make you think, like, why are they doing this to me? Like if I was always getting stopped by police, or even if I got stopped by a police today, it makes me nervous. Like you always get that little bit of nervous feeling. And if it's happening consistently to you and your friends, you start to think, okay, like what the hell? Why are they always stopping us? Why are they always checking us? Like, do I look like a criminal? Like, what is going on here?
Exactly. You're being treated like a criminal.
Exactly.
So the numbers were right. 9% were white. Most of the time. So basically the percentages are always very consistent. It's like about 9-10% white people are being stopped. And then the great majority is Black, and then there's also Latinos, and then the great majority are innocent people.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that really impacted me, one of the stats from the 13th documentary, was when they're talking about wrongful convictions as well, and how they were saying of people that are acquitted of crime, so like let go free, such as Kalief and all this other stuff, of those people, it was like and
50% are black.
Yeah. It was like 48% were black. So basically one out of every 2 people, and that doesn't include Latinos and everything else. It was just black people, I believe, that this statistic.
Yeah.
So, and 1 out of 2, basically 1 out of 2 people that are wrongfully arrested is black. So 50% basically. And it's insane because, you know, so those people out there that are still denying that systemic racism, it doesn't exist, please educate yourself.
Yeah.
Watch these
what the argument I found? It is so fucking dumb. Like, do these people do an ounce of research? One of the arguments... Yeah, what?
I think I sent you the video, but I think you've watched it anyway. It was this one guy talking about the breakdown of family. Did you see that one?
Which one?
It was like this guy.
Is it the one that you said you sent it to me on Instagram and then you were saying that systemic... Yeah, so this is one of the popular conservative talking points.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not because we have racism. It's because African Americans, they're... have a lot of fatherless homes. They always talk about the fucking fatherless home.
Yeah.
Okay. So they use this as like an argument to say that like, oh, it's because of the fact that, the breakdown of the traditional family. And because, these kids don't have a father figure, that's why they turn to crime and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you know what? Listen, there might be some truth to that, but let's actually explore. First of all, why are there so many fucking fatherless homes in African-American communities? Maybe because a third of African-American men are rotting in prison or have some sort of prison, record.
Exactly.
Okay. So you cannot talk about fatherless homes without talking about mass incarceration, because that's one of the main reasons why a lot of these black families do not have fathers. Well, and they make it sound like it's like a character thing. It's like, oh, like they're just leaving because they're just reckless fathers and they don't care about their kids. It's like, there's so many other factors.
Exactly. Well, and think about, even if we just look at Kalief's story and what happened with him, and that happens to, all these other guys. So even if they are coming back to their absent fathers for, let's say, 3 years, they're wrongfully accused, they're incarcerated. They then imagine they come back to their families after the 3 years of something like what Kalief endured. And now they have mental problems. And so now they're coming back to their homes and their families, and, they've been absent, but now they're back, and now they have some serious, mental issues going on that they have to deal with, and raising a family. Like, obviously that's going to have an impact. Like, and they have a criminal record potentially. It's going to be harder for them to find a job. Yep.
And it's going to be harder for them to, be a father figure.
Exactly. It's crazy.
And then, so it's like, these conservative arguments are so annoying because it's like, let's actually talk about the fatherlessness of these homes.
Yeah.
Because you don't actually care about them. You don't care about the fact that these families don't have fathers. Because if you did, you would talk about why that is and how they can fix those situations. You don't give a shit unless it suits your narrative. So you just want to blame. Basically, what they want to do is say that black men are irresponsible and that they just leave their families. And that's why black people have such problems. Yeah. Never mind all of the racist policies that cause them to be poor in the first place, that continuously pushes them to being poorer. Never mind all the, people thrown in prison for whatever the fuck reason. And then I remember seeing another statistic where basically they did like a study on like the, because, we talked about in the other episode, we talked about how the U.S. holds like 25% of the world's prison population, even though they are only 5% of the world's population. So U.S. has a major problem with mass incarceration.
Huge.
So are they all just a bunch of criminals, or is there something missing? And I think there was like a study where they said, oh my God,
it was about drug users, right? It was about like
it was a different study, but you can say that while you can talk about that while I,
because I think if I remember correctly, and you might have to jump in, Rose, I don't remember this exact stat, but it was saying that of drug users, it was like pretty equal amounts in if you look at like white versus black in those communities. However, those incarcerated for drug felonies were predominantly black.
Yeah, so you're much more likely to be imprisoned, incarcerated, all of that stuff. And you're also much more likely to get like a higher sentence for whatever it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, in terms of the drug thing, even though black people, white people use drugs in a similar rate, black people are much more likely to be imprisoned for drug crimes. And I found the article, it says 39% of prisoners should not be in prison. 39%.
That's
so they did a study. Yeah. So
it's just insanity. Like it's on so many levels. It doesn't make sense. Like on a kind of ethical level that these people are wrongfully imprisoned and should not be in prison. So that's number one. But then also, which is a cost to society. Because eventually when these people do get out, they're going to have all sorts of problems.
Absolutely.
But then also it's actually a monetary cost as well. So like the society,
all the tax dollars are going to these prisons instead of potentially maybe creating better schools, maybe creating better communities, maybe having public health care, maybe actually treating their citizens with respect, which will in turn decrease crime.
Exactly.
But no, you just want to spend all the money in throwing innocent people in prison.
It's crazy. It is so crazy. Like,
yeah. So it says that, so they did the study and it says that first, many people who are in prison shouldn't be sent there in the first place. For example, we found that 25% of prisoners, almost all nonviolent lower level offenders, would be better served by alternatives to incarceration, such as treatment, community service, or probation.
Yeah.
And then 14% have already served long sentences for more serious crimes and can be safely set free. So basically they're saying that like people are just being, they're just rotting in prison, basically.
Yeah.
39%. Even if you were to say that number is inflated, like how inflated could it be? Even if it was 20%,
exactly.
There needs to be some sort of reform.
And my question with all of this is, what benefit to society is there for holding these people and incarcerating these people for this extended period of time? I don't see the benefit to general.
It's money potentially, because we talked about. I don't know how many of America's prisons are private, but that's one potential thing.
So there's the private companies. It's the free labor when they use prisoners for labor as well.
It's political power.
Yeah.
It's just crazy because I could never think that anyone would do this. But it's when you hear stuff like this, it's like, I can't help but actually think that everyone in government is evil and all that shit.
Oh God.
Yeah. It's actually so fucked up.
It's crazy.
And then, that's one argument that's fucked up because it's like fatherlessness.
Another
it's
one.
Not an argument.
Exactly. It's
those same people are against anything to do with like making sure, there's like better public schools. They're against putting money into social programs. They think that's socialism and communism and they don't want to do that. So they don't want to do anything that actually betters the communities. They're just going to blame the black people because they're just so fucking evil, apparently.
I also like, though, when they use the example of like, well, look, there's successful, black people that are like business entrepreneurs and things like this. And like,
if they can do it, why can't you do it?
Exactly. And it's like, oh my God, like,
how dumb are you? Like, were you born yesterday?
It's like if you what am I trying to say? If you just pick one example of somebody that's successful just to represent a whole thing and say, oh, well, why can't everyone be like this? It's like, that's not the question we should be asking. The question that we should be asking is, why is it that, and I can't remember the exact stat, but it was like, why is it that the average, black household in America, the average net worth is like 17,000 versus 170,000 for, white people.
Households.
So why don't we start asking those questions instead of saying, oh, well, why can't everyone be as successful as this person? There's something going on here,
Well, they're going to say it's the fatherlessness.
Oh my
Daniel.
God.
It's the father. And then one argument I saw, I just could not even believe that this was even like people actually think that this is a good argument.
Yeah.
And it was saying something like, well, Asian Americans are minorities, but Asian Americans are actually some of the more successful. They're more successful than white people generally, than other races. So, they do very well in schools. They make a lot of money, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So like, there's no such thing as, I think that was the argument, like because Asian Americans are successful and they're all, they're minorities. So why are they being successful if there's such thing as systemic racism?
Yeah.
I'm just, okay. I know that our audience is not dumb, but let me just talk to the dumb people that actually believe in this bullshit. Okay. First of all, from the very brilliant Asian mind, okay? Because apparently I'm just so fucking brilliant because I'm Asian. Asian Americans were not brought, first of all, Asian Americans were not brought to America as slaves. They were immigrants, okay? Very big difference. African Americans were brought to America as slaves. Asian Americans moved voluntarily as immigrants at, I think, a much later time.
Yeah.
Asian Americans are relatively new to America and Canada and stuff like that. Okay, so that's one big difference. And when you move as an immigrant, they don't just let anyone just move, especially when you're coming from like overseas. Like it's not like Mexico where you can just cross the border illegally or whatever it is. Okay.
Yeah.
That's another discussion. But Asians have to actually like, you know, get on a boat or a plane and move. So they have to apply to be an immigrant. And when you have to apply to be an immigrant, they're not going to just allow some random people to just come into their country. You have to be at a certain level of education. You have to have some kind of, you know, maybe a certain level of income already. You already have to be an upstanding member of your current society to be an immigrant to another society. Like when my parents moved to Canada, they had to prove that they had a certain amount of money. They had to go through health assessments to make sure that they weren't sick. We all had to go through health assessments, and they had good jobs. They had to go through an interview. Of course, the people that move as immigrants are going to be higher functioning members of society because that's the qualification to be an immigrant. Fuck.
I know.
Why do I have to explain this? It is not fucking... What the fuck? And this is like their gotcha moment. They're like, gotcha, Asians are successful, so they're not being racist. We're not saying that white people are just racist to all minorities. Like that is not the discussion that we are having. How do you not understand this?
I know, it's crazy. It's honestly like, it kind of, I know this is like a completely like separate discussion, but I do love watching sometimes these debates on YouTube and stuff where it's like people will be, I watched this really good one. It was a completely different topic, but it's about, it was these two pastors that were debating homosexuality. Like one was for and one was against it. And
they're both pastors.
Yeah, they're both. And the funny thing is like sometimes like for some of these arguments that people are making, like for example, the ones like these arguments, like the one you just outlined, when you take a step back and you listen, it's like there's no argument. Do you know what I mean? It's a non-argument, if that makes sense. Like
it's a non-argument.
Exactly. Like these points that you're making, it's like when people like say stupid shit about vegans as well, like, oh, plants have feelings, blah, 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 blah.
Oh God.
It's like, these are non-arguments. Like, why are you even wasting your breath saying these sentences out of your mouth? Do you know what I mean?
Because the majority of humanity is not very smart, and some people will buy that argument.
Yeah, true.
Unfortunately.
You know, actually,
I
was going to say, speaking of these crazy arguments, it came up on my Netflix recommendations, Beyond the Curve. So I'm going to give that a watch.
Oh, God. Can you please watch that tonight?
Yeah.
That's the Flat Earth documentary.
Yeah, I can't wait. So speaking of some really,
Oh God. It's like terrifying, but also very hilarious, that documentary.
It's crazy. So yeah,
anyways,
I'll be watching that.
Oh God.
Yeah.
People are just so...
It's just so frustrating. Yeah. Like,
it's like, do they actually think that Black people are just culturally bad? Like, is that their argument? Do you think?
I just don't know. Because
it's like they must be able to explain this wealth gap somehow.
But it's funny because even that one guy, I'm going to watch this video again because I want to figure out what his other points were. But the one that was talking about the breakdown of the family, like he himself was a Black man. So like,
oh, they always use the one Black guy that agrees with their fucking narrative to sell this fucking garbage.
Exactly.
Because it's, the thing is, if you're living in a society that's, you know, I guess I don't like to use these terms, but like a white supremacist society, let's say, okay, and you go with the white supremacist narrative, then you will be more successful.
Yeah.
So then the successful people are going to go with that narrative because they're going to think, well, I made it.
Yeah.
You know, I'm powerful. I'm successful.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's maybe our problem. Maybe it's the Black people's problem, you know, because I made it.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's just like, again, I really enjoy having constructive and not constructive, that's the wrong word, but challenging and interesting debates. Do you know what I mean? Like about different topics, about, you know, hearing different viewpoints. And, you know, sometimes people can say things where I'm like, oh, it really makes me think, you know? But again, as I mentioned, these like non-arguments are more of like just a frustration and an irritation that these people are believing this stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's just kind of like, again, it just... use some common sense and some logic, you know, like that's just my,
it's crazy.
Because like there's certain things that you just cannot deny, and like some of the stuff, it's like when you're presented with like facts and figures, you know, like we're saying, like with America's prisons incarceration rate and all of that, the evidence is blatantly there. You know what I mean? You can see the problem. Like you cannot deny that problem exists.
But Daniel, they're criminals.
Oh my God.
So they don't have fathers. So basically they're criminals.
Yeah. Oh God. It's just crazy.
Yeah. And I remember like another argument that these people just love to make, and I think I heard Trump say this shit too.
Oh God.
Is like, what about black on black crime? What about that? You know, you only care when it's a white person killing a black person, even though more black people are killing black people. So you don't care about the black people killing black people. You don't care about the crime in your communities. You only care if it's a white person. I'm like, first of all, when did we say that we don't like, when did anyone say that they don't care about the crime in black communities?
Exactly.
That is literally what we are discussing, because all of these things come from the same, like, it's coming from the same issues. Yeah. So like the black on, first of all, they say, like, I've heard people say there's no such thing as like black on black crime. It doesn't really even make sense because, you know, when you have like violent crimes or when you have like people killing each other, usually they're going to kill people in their close proximity. Yeah. And so white people are more likely to kill white people.
Exactly.
And black people are more, so that's just the way it is. So it's not really like, oh, black people are targeting black people. It's just, you just kill people around you, you know? Yeah. So it's not really an argument. Secondly, you're like, yeah, we are talking about George Floyd and that specific case of police brutality.
Yeah.
But that is just one tiny little example of the broken system.
Yeah.
That's not the whole thing that we're talking about. So of course we should talk about crime in black communities, which is very severe.
Exactly.
And how do we fix that crime? Okay. We put money into these communities and make them better.
In social welfare
decrease
programs.
Poverty.
Yeah.
Yes. And increase education. All of these things which you don't want to put money into.
I know. It's crazy. It's just like, it blows my mind. It really like,
I don't understand.
Yeah.
I don't understand. I don't know why you want to live in this world, like that kind of world.
Exactly.
Even as, the thing is, if I was a super fucking rich person, okay, I don't want to live in, I feel like I would be scared to live in a country with such high disparity rates because I would feel targeted all the time, you know, because if you have high disparity, you're going to have increases in crime in those, you know, poverty-stricken neighborhoods, and the rich people have to live in gated communities. This happens all the time.
Yeah, it happens
everyone
across
has to
the
live in a
world.
gated community. Yeah. You have to have security guards everywhere. You can't have, you know, you can't be flashy and stuff like that. I'm just like, I don't want to live like that. Is that
exactly?
I don't know.
Think about how much better off as a society, and maybe again, I'm thinking like, you know, in my little like my little happy world or whatever. But like, just think about as a society how much better off we would be if, you know, there wasn't such high disparity between the haves and the have-nots, and in general, that if the people that were super rich were a little bit less rich, and the people that were in poverty were no longer in poverty, I think that would just be beneficial for the whole society. You know what I mean? Like in general. So
that's the whole point.
Yeah.
And then they'll have, again, it's like the whole problem with also like the destruction of the middle class, as they say, because either people are becoming too rich or too poor, and there's no more middle class. And that's bad for the economy as well, because they say a strong middle class is good for the economy.
Exactly.
And also, just general public safety issues, you know, for example, I don't want to go out and be scared and have a bodyguard if I'm going to go shopping or something.
Exactly.
You know, I want to live in a world where we don't have to have so many people on the streets and everyone can have a certain level of dignity and income, and, you know, and everyone can have the ability to pick themselves up if they maybe screw up or, you know, like, why do you not want to live in that world? I don't understand.
I actually watched this. I didn't watch. There was this. I'm going to quote it wrong. I'm going to look it up and I'll mention it in another episode as well. But there was like this really famous like CEO of a company that decided to, and this was in the States, I believe. He decided to take a massive cut in his salary in order to basically distributed between the rest of the employees. And he brought all of the employees' minimum salaries up to like $70K or something, like something really, really good. So even like everyone in the company was like making, really good money. And he said, even though he had to alter his lifestyle a bit, because obviously he's not making as much as he was before, he said overall, everyone in the company was better off. His employees were in better financial situations, which meant them were more productive. And actually, I think I saw it on YouTube or somewhere, he said, this same CEO said, actually, during this pandemic, his employees were offering to take small salary reductions to, in this time of, troubles and stuff. So it's like, it comes in roundabouts, you know what I mean? So it's like, he was actually better off.
They're working as a community. They're like a community. That's the thing. It's like, but that we can't expect corporations to do this kind of thing. It's like, this is why you need to tax the rich, tax the fucking rich, and make sure corporations are paying their, whatever they need to be paying.
Exactly.
Like, oh God, I could go on and on about this.
I know we could literally talk for hours.
So
no, see, the thing is, I'm like with you in many aspects. Like I'm not so much communist. I do think that there's some benefits.
I was joking about being a communist.
I know.
Basically, this is my political stance. Okay, this is my economic and political stance. I believe in a society. So I believe in capitalism to a certain degree.
Yeah.
Capitalism cannot do, I believe in a mixture of capitalism and socialism where you have, of course, for example, when you want to make a mug, okay, this is capitalism, okay? This is not a necessity necessarily for you to have, okay? If you want to make a MacBook or a phone, capitalism does a great job at inventing, great things.
Yeah.
But there needs to be a certain level, but certain things need to be not privately owned and not for profit. For example, hospitals should not be for profit. Fire departments should not be for profit. Post office, like all of these things. There are certain things that the government does a good job or should do a good job at providing for the public as we pay, taxes into that system. And I also believe in a system where if you are you should be able to become very rich, but not to the point where you are not to the point of the US where there's like 1% of the people making 50% of the income or some crazy shit like that.
Yeah.
Like you have to tax people do they call them like marginal tax rates? So everyone gets taxed at a certain rate until like 50K.
Yeah.
And then you get taxed a little more above so whatever you make above the 50K, you get taxed a little bit more.
Yeah.
So you still make a shit ton of money. So if I make like $5 million a year, I'll be taxed at a certain rate for the first, million.
Yeah.
And then my second million, I'll get taxed at a higher rate and so on and so forth. So I'm still going to take home a fuck ton of money.
Yeah. But this, and again, it comes down to like why, and I'm like, I have a very similar stance to you on this. I do think if people work hard and everything else, they should be rewarded to a point.
Absolutely.
To a point. But then we've created this world where there is such a huge discrepancy between some of these people where you literally have individuals out there that have more net worth and assets than countries. And to me, I'm just like, that is so fucked up. Why does somebody need to have 50 billion in assets?
Yeah.
Exactly. Why does one person need to have that much money? And the real answer is they don't. And actually,
they don't.
Even if
look at Kylie Jenner. Let's talk about Kylie Jenner.
Oh God.
No one is going to sit there. I'm sorry. We're going to go off on we're almost done. Sorry, guys. We're, of course, as always, we talk above the regular time. Anyway. Kylie Jenner. Look, I have no hate on Kylie Jenner. Okay. She is just a young girl that was born into a rich family.
Yeah.
And, fixed a few things with her face, became very successful. Fine. Fantastic. It could have gone, she could have become a less productive member of society, whatever. Okay.
Yeah.
But either way, no one is going to sit there and say that she, worked so much harder than everybody else, and which is why she became a billionaire. The only reason why I think she's now a billionaire.
She is, yeah.
The only reason why she's a 20-something-year-old billionaire is because of where she was born and how she was born and who she was born to.
Exactly. This is that's why there was a lot of controversy that was sparked because I think it was Forbes did an article on her,
right?
And they had titled her the youngest self-made billionaire.
Literal bullshit.
Yeah. And people were like really, really pissed off about the article because they said, well, yes, she did work hard and she created a product or whatever else, but the platform, how she was able to do that, everything else was because of the family that she was born into. Because if she wasn't born into the Kardashian family, she wouldn't have 150 million followers on Instagram to be able to launch products, to be able to do all of that and have this platform. And
not only the platform, but the fact that she was brought up in a wealthy household, had had basically everything working in her favor. Like she didn't, so that's a huge thing as well. Yeah. And plus, of course, she had the platform, already a rich family, already a famous family.
Yeah.
So, and I heard that she makes like $1 million for like a tweet or like an Instagram post.
Yeah.
She is not working that much harder, guys. Like, get this through your head. This is a rigged system.
Of course.
It is not. So she should be taxed. I'm not saying that she shouldn't be rich, but she should be taxed.
Yeah.
She should be taxed at a much higher rate.
Exactly.
And yes, that is not theft. That is part of living in a society where you benefit the most still, even if you are being taxed the most.
It's so funny because like, I always go back to this argument. You're right. Cause what you said about like, she's not working necessarily harder than, working so much harder than everyone else that she earned that money. Cause if you think about it as well, at the end of the day, there are exactly 24 hours in a day. So do not tell me that all of a sudden this person that's making $1 million a day or something ridiculous is working so many more hours than say me or somebody else. Because really there's only 24 hours in a day. Like that's it. There's a cutoff.
The fact that people still make that kind of argument is so it's baffling to me. It is the most lazy, uneducated argument ever. Like, oh, they work harder, so they should. Yeah. No,
it's like
Paris Hilton is another example.
Exactly.
Of someone that was just born into wealth.
Yeah, you can't tell me that like someone like Kylie Jenner is working harder than, let's say, somebody that's like a single mom that's working 3 jobs to take care of her kids.
Literally, anyone is working harder than exactly. So like, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you can't.
She posts an Instagram post and gets $1 million.
Yeah.
Are you fucking me right now? And look, again, fine. Fair enough. That's part of the game. She's an influencer. She has a lot of followers. It's part of advertising. I understand. I'm not knocking her for making $1 million per post. What I'm saying is the system is rigged if you don't think that she should be paying a lot more in taxes and it's also rigged. And she's just one example of someone that's famous. So I'm just using her as an example. There's worse people out there that makes a lot more and pays like nothing.
Exactly.
And while the rest of the country or the world is not even the world, we can't compare to the world, but like, let's say in America, like again, like I think 1% owns like the bottom 50%, the same as the bottom 50% of wealth or something, something like this.
No, it's like the top 1% own 50% of the assets in the country or something like this.
Or something like that. Which is crazy.
It's crazy. It is just like,
I
just remember when I saw that, I did see this one thing, it was like on it was on the internet or whatever, where it compared the top 10 billionaires, and these were across different countries. Like it was like, obviously Bill Gates and other people. And it was showing these billionaires, their net worth versus which countries had the same net worth as these billionaires, basically. And I was like, this is so wrong. Like this is so wrong on so many levels. Wrong. Like, and again, you're right. You can't turn around and tell me that these people have worked so much harder than like me or you. Do you know what I mean? Or anyone in general. Do you know what I mean? Like,
everyone should know that money makes money. So when you have money, it's going to make more money.
Exactly.
And it's just like it's a constant thing. Exactly. You know, if you have more money, you can go to a nice school, get a great education. And then, of course, you're going to put money into investments, make more money from that.
Exactly. Because think about it. Like, even if, like, for example, if I had been born into a ton of money, that's just it. Like if I had like a trust fund or whatever else, that would be invested. That would be making me money on top of whatever else I'm doing. So you automatically are making more. You know what I mean? So money makes money. But anyway.
Oh, goddamn. We need an episode on the problems with capitalism.
Definitely. That would be a good one. That would be a good one. But
even though we just went into it here.
True. But there's so much more to talk about with regards to that.
Yeah, I'm just a dirty socialist, you know.
But hopefully you guys enjoyed that episode. I, again, really, really recommend watching the Kalief Browder story on Netflix. Another one of those really, really great and kind of eye-opening documentaries on kind of the flaws with the judicial system, as well as how systemic racism is so prevalent in the US. So very, very good, an emotional watch. So make sure you have some tissues with you and maybe some.
Oh God,
maybe
I have not
of
cried
wine.
so much.
Yeah, it was intense.
I don't know how you probably cried so much.
I did, but I think it definitely really impacted me. So it was.
Did you cry more in the Gabriel Fernandez story?
Yes, but both of them are so emotional. You know, it's just such emotional stories, and it's just really, really, really sad. So yeah.
I was like sobbing, like when you make noise when you like sob. It was like that. That was me. I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Because it was just so. Yeah, it was just so sad. Mm-hmm. But anyways, so that's it, you guys. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Mm-hmm. Maybe you learned something. Maybe you didn't. Either way, you heard me shout, which is one of my favorite things to do.
Yeah.
I should just keep ranting. We should just do rants all the time. That'll be a thing. I'm very good at ranting.
Yeah.
So anyways, we'll let you guys go. Make sure you let us know your thoughts in the comments if you can. Make sure you give us a rating.
Yeah.
And check us out on Patreon as always, patreon.com/The SaVeg Podcast.
Yeah. Thanks for tuning in, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye.